Get to that one in just a little bit. We begin this hour with the second day of a pivotal hearing for the man charged with murdering a healthcare executive.
We're talking about Luigi Mangione, who is back in court for a pretrial hearing in his New York State case. His attorneys are trying to get some evidence tossed out, including a handgun and notes from his backpack. One of the police officers who arrested Mangione at a Pennsylvania McDonald's last year has been testifying for several hours. His testimony is expected to resume after a lunch break ends in about 15 minutes.
Mangione is accused of shooting and killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson outside of a Manhattan hotel last year. He has pleaded not guilty to state and to federal charges. Joining us here in studio, NBC News correspondent Sam Brock and NBC News legal analyst Danny Cevallos. Sam, I'll start with you. We mentioned a police officer's been testifying. What have we heard so far today?
Let's start about the most notable thing. Start with the most notable thing, which is that Officer Detweiler said there was such incredulity with this 911 call when he received it. First of all, he didn't put the sirens on his car on. A. B. He got a text message from his lieutenant saying, if that's the New York City CEO shooter, I'm going to buy you a hoagie. And he said, done, because he really did not think that he was walking into a McDonald's to find someone who's the subject of a 5-day-long manhunt. He says that he walked inside the McDonald's, saw Mangione in the corner, asked him to pull his mask down. As soon as he did, in the words of Detweiler, I knew right away it was him. As soon as he pulled that mask down, there was a safety concern with just us being there, not knowing what was in the bag and what he was going to do. Critical words there, right? Given the fact that we know that there is an evidence suppression request from the defense over Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights here. He's saying, I fear for my safety as soon as I walked in there, once I realized this was likely the person, guys. And so he also talked about the fact, Officer Detweiler, he'd been watching Fox News throughout the last several days, had seen all of these images of Mangione or the suspect in the back of a taxi cab, in a hostel, video of a shooter walking up to Brian Thompson in early morning hours in Midtown Manhattan and shooting him in cold blood with a silencer, and thought, this is someone who is lying in wait. If I ever encounter this person, they could be dangerous. So that sort of catalyzes the entire exchange. He asks for an ID. Mangione provides an ID, but it says Mark Rosario. This was shown in court from New Jersey. And then they say, we checked this in our database. This isn't you. Why did you give us a fake ID? And he said, well, it was the only fake ID I had. And then sort of corrected himself after that. How much of that exchange actually is allowed in court versus is stricken because he's not Mirandized beforehand? That's, one of the big questions here, but that's some portion of the events that happened earlier today. It was a very informative day.
No, and to that end, Danny, the officer's actions are a key part of Mangione's attorney's arguments here. How might that affect whether or not this evidence, some of it, does get tossed out?
The best legal scenario for Officer Detweiler, at least, is to have no belief that he was about to respond to a call involving the shooter, and then that he only developed the belief that this was the shooter right when he was in the McDonald's. Because if they believed it was the shooter every minute that they approached him, that's another reason they should have Mirandized him or read him his rights. So it's no coincidence that Detweiler just happens to testify perfectly in accordance with the legal situation that the government needs in order to defeat the suppression motion. But what's at stake here is obviously everything that's in the backpack, including the firearm, and then the statements. But this is not a suppression motion where the case disappears if it is granted. The entire case does not depend on the outcome of these motions, whereas in many cases it often does.
And just to summarize, the issue is if they were fearing for their safety, then it's okay not to Mirandize someone yet because you're fearing for your safety?
No. The more they believe that he was the suspect, that means it is more likely, at least for the interrogation portion, the statements portion, that this is someone they should have given Miranda warnings to sooner. But as to the suppression of the items in the backpack, the reason that's significant is that if they do have fear, that's great for them. It doesn't really matter when they developed it, but that gives them more reason to access the backpack.
I see. Thank you.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.